Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and welcome to Dr. Boyce and Nomalanga. I'm here with Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses from Healthy Black Woman. How you doing today, Noma?
I'm doing great, Boyce. How are you?
I'm doing really good, and I feel kind of bad for being so cheerful because there's some stuff going on that's actually kind of sad. Bobbi Kristina Brown, the daughter of Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown, as of this moment, she's in the hospital, and the situation isn't looking good. Everybody, she was found unconscious in her bathtub, and everyone thought that she was going to make a recovery and that they'd done CPR. And then all these reports start coming out that she's on a ventilator, that she's in a medically induced coma, and some sources are even saying that she's brain dead. What do you think about this? I mean, what's been going through your head as you've seen all this kind of happen?
Well, what stands out the most to me is that she was found in a bathtub, much like her mother was 3 years ago.
Mm,
I've been working on putting together some thoughts and putting together an article for this. But that's the part that really resonates with what I want to talk about. Is as a parent and as a mother, one of the things that I recognize is no matter how hard you try to tell your kids what to do and how life should be, they unfortunately follow your example. And it looks a lot like, even though it hasn't been confirmed, it's allegedly because of some kind of drug use that she ended up in the position that she's in. So that screams the truth that is out there that, your kids do follow your example, unfortunately.
well, it's funny. I think out of fairness for Bobby Christina, the police are saying that they didn't find any drugs out in the open
Right.
on the scene, which, I think for a lot of people that's hard to believe, just given that Bobby Christina had talked about issues with drugs and alcohol resulting from her mother's death. I mean, this incident happened, I think we're about, 10 or 12 days away from the 3-year anniversary of her mother's death, which is just, really depressing. You can't help but wonder if there was some sort of trigger, given that the anniversary was coming up. Maybe it's Valentine's Day or something else that reminds her of her mother's death. Do you think that if this happened, if she did say, take her own life or put herself at risk, I mean, do you think that her mother's death, how do you think her mother's death has played a role in the downward spiral of Bobby Christina since 2012?
Well, a couple of things to note. That movie that Angela Bassett directed came out recently as well. And that put Whitney Houston and Bobby Brown back in the news. And the movie didn't shy away from showing that Whitney Houston was a drug user. So that must have been hard to watch. It's all over the headlines, it's all over the news, and so forth. And I think that the death of a loved one is something that you just never really get over. You kind of get used to the pain, but you never really get over it. And I think she's been dealing with it since her mother passed away. And the fact that it was sudden is also what makes it so sad. I do believe that the anniversary is coming up and that we've been talking about it so much lately, and by we, I mean the media, was probably a contributing factor. And we cannot entirely rule out the possibility that maybe this was deliberate. Maybe she was trying to end her life. We don't know. Like you said, we have to be fair to her because we don't have all the facts. But that is something that has crossed my mind.
Well, one of the other things that has been going on that it's hard to imagine this not playing a role in what happened is Bobby Christina, and her estranged husband Nick Gordon, were having some issues too. They weren't living in the same residence, and there's been a lot of media report about the family sort of feeling that Nick doesn't even have the right to see her body, while she's lying there, and so to me, what I'm seeing is you're compounding relationship problems with the fact that she's already depressed and sad because of the loss of her mother, and then at the same time, you can even compound that with the fact that she's an only child. Only children, I think, have a harder time dealing with the loss of a parent than children with siblings. And she's 21 years old, and she's also kind of in this life that is just surreal in a way, in that her mother left her entire estate to her, or almost all of it. So you're 21 years old. You've got more money than most people will ever have in their lives, and but yet you're dealing with this huge emotional burden, and you're living in this world where you see these people who talk badly about your mother when she was alive, but then suddenly they're praising her when she's dead. So you start to feel that maybe your friends aren't real. It seems like there was just so much going on psychologically. Do you think? I mean, did you hear anything about her getting any counseling to kind of cope with all of that?
You know, they had a short-lived reality show, and I think in that reality show it was implied, or they showed bits and pieces of where she talked it out with a counselor or a trusted relative. But even then, that's something that needs to go on for a very long time. And I think a lot of times we we look at our lives as normal people. I like to think of myself as a normal person, and we compare it to celebrities, and those are two different worlds. When you're living a normal life, going to therapy and things like that may seem like, okay, that's something I need to do. But celebrities live in a world where they don't know who they can trust. And then another thing is because they have so much money and influence, sometimes that's to their own detriment. They don't take advice very well because they can remove people from their lives very easily. So you can never really know how things will play out when a person is a celebrity. And then another thing is they live in a fishbowl. Everybody sees what they're doing. Everybody has an opinion and a comment about what they're doing. So it's a totally different experience. And I think this young woman has been going through this since 18 years old when her mother passed away. That's a lot to handle for an 18-year-old. It's a lot to handle for an adult, 30, 40, 50, whatever, however old you are. So for an 18-year-old, that's too much, I think.
I think it is too, and it almost seems to me that when you have children that are born into these celebrity families, that a lot has to be done to prepare that child for that crazy life they're going to live. If you think about celebrity kids, like you look at Will and Jada's kids, you look at Beyonce and Jay Z's child, Blue Ivy, Kanye West and Kim Kardashian's baby on Northwest, Michael Jackson's kids. I almost feel like you have to really, really prepare them for what's coming down the road, right? And not to say that Bobby and Whitney did not do this, but it almost seemed to me that they were so busy struggling with their own challenges that it's hard to imagine them really being able to focus on fulfilling Bobbi Kristina's needs, because it seems that they had unmet needs which were being filled with drugs and some other tough choices. And one other thing that I'll throw in there, and that you touched on, that I think is important to talk about, is the enormous pressure that a child has to feel when you are, you're the daughter of these two amazing talents. I mean, Bobby and Whitney were as big as Beyonce, is now at one point. I mean, they kind of let it go in the mid '90s, but I mean, you go to back to say '91, '92, there really weren't any stars bigger than this. So you're feeling almost the pressure that I almost compare it to what Michael Jordan's sons probably went through, where every time they stepped on a basketball court, people expected them to be like their father, and that's a huge standard to meet. So here you are, you're Bobbi Kristina, you've got this gorgeous mother who could sing like a freaking bird, and you're trying to match up to this. She's went into show business too. She was going out to Hollywood, trying to get parts in movies, trying to go and sing, and she's kind of getting rejected, right? Because that was part of her issue with Angela Bassett, was she wanted to play a role in her mom's film. I think she wanted to play her mom, if I'm not mistaken, and Angela was like, no, you're not an actress. Acting is a craft. It's very difficult. You have to spend years getting to this level. You're not going to get it just because you're related to Whitney Houston. And that's just got to be stressful, right? And then on top of that, and I'll this is the last thing I'll say, and I'll let you finish this. On top of that, I think that there's something that you gain when you work your way from the bottom to the top that you never get when you start at the top, right? The children of wealthy black people in general, just, I think most of the time, don't have the same fortitude that their parents had, because so many things were handed to them from an early age. Can you kind of speak to that a little bit, and what your thoughts
Um,
are?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things, love or hate the Obamas, one of the things that I was keenly aware of with Michelle Obama when she was talking about going into the White House was this. The first thing that she did is she said, I want my mother to come with us. Because again, she recognized that there'd be a lot going on, and sometimes your kids can fall, who knows where because there's so much going on. So she wanted that steady person who's watching the kids, who's giving them the lessons and the day in and the day out that they need. That was wise. And then the second thing that she did was she said that she required her children, no matter how many servants were in the house, to do chores just like they did when they were not living in the White House. And again, that goes towards building the character of your child. And she had other rules that I remember talking about some years ago where they weren't allowed to just be exposed to media all day, every day with video games and internet and so forth. She scheduled it where they were exposed to it at a specific time for a specific length of time, and then that was it. And those are the things that you have to put into place, I believe. And unfortunately, I really don't think, just like you said, with Bobbi Kristina, her parents were going through their own struggles. When I looked at that movie and I did a few calculations in my mind, how old he is or when he was born and the things that were going on. I think Bobby Brown was only about 19 when he met Whitney Houston. And she was, I think, 5, 6, maybe 7 years older than him, so she was a little bit older. But I think we forget that some of those things you learn later in life, but they were going through these things at a young age. And then to be responsible for a child at that age and deal with your own issues, deal with a marriage that had so many issues, then fame, then drug use. I personally, ever since Whitney Houston passed away, was just watching and hoping for the best for Bobbi Kristina, but I really didn't think she was going to do well, just given what I knew or what we had seen. And that's unfortunate.
Wow. Well, I think we can both agree that we hope that everything works out for Bobby Christina and her family. I feel so bad for the poor child. I don't know what to say. I can definitely say that it makes us think about how we raise children, what we teach them, in terms of how to deal with what lies ahead. And I think that's really important. And so I want to say thank you. It's great talking to you, Nomalanga. I appreciate it. All right, and everybody, this is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses from HealthyBlackWoman.com. I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and we are Dr. Boyce and Nomalanga, if you ever forget that. So until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.